Let's see here. We are going live, and we are live, and the comments are on. Hey, everyone. Good morning. It is 9:30 a.m. Wednesday morning. Innovation Fika with me, Donny. And look at this, a guest. Episode 202 of...
Wow.
I know,
That's
202. It's amazing. 202 episodes, of which most of them are recorded on YouTube. You'll find them there if you go to Innovation Fika on YouTube. And about 170 with guests, I think. So a lot of guests the past years. And every Wednesday, 9:30 a.m., the world's fastest 30 minutes. When you come online, say who you are in the comments. Just say hi. I know we have about 40 people signed up for today's event. So just say who you are and good morning. And so we know that. And then get the questions going as well. Post questions along the way. We'll pick them up as we go along. And today I am super duper thrilled to have Nina in the studio. Welcome.
Thank you, Donny. And hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the studio. And this is great because I met Nina. We were speaking at the same event.
Yeah.
And
a couple of years
ago. And I thought to myself, I need to get in touch with that person. And then we met. Then we collaborated on an event at Microsoft.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs Without Borders, where you also spoke. And then I thought to myself, I need to do more with this person. And so I'm here with this person, Nina Rapp, who is I call her a Marvel Wonder Woman cape-carrying AI expert person.
I think about actually keeping that title and just bumping it up because it sounds great.
She might, but I will also ask Nina so I will start with that. And by the way, hi, let's get this. Hi, Erker. Thanks for coming online. Same thing, everybody else. As you come online, say hi and join the fun and start the conversation as well. So starting off, Nina, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Nina Rapp, I am a AI and future work strategist. You just mentioned it, Donny. I have worked at Microsoft. I just left about a week ago now. So spent over 12 years at Microsoft. I've been focusing on modern work technology, future work, transformations across first Europe, Nordic, in the last few years in Sweden. And when we talk about future work, modern work technology shifts, that comes back to people. Well, the last few years, all we've talked about is generative AI and really how that is changing the game completely in what work is.
Yep.
It isn't.
And that's the topic of today's really short conversation over a cup of coffee is the future of work and kind of what will work do with us or for us as human beings, because we tend to, I work at KTH, so, I work with tech, but we tend to over tech stuff when it is always, as you said, it's about humans. So starting off the conversation then, in your perspective, this is a big question to start with. What is work going to do with us and for us in a general sense? Where do you see in your crystal ball? What do you see in the future?
I think we really need to take a step back and think about what is work and what do we want it to be.
Yeah.
We've talked about work in so many different capacities. We've talked about, is work a place, how much you spend in the office or wherever you work? Is it how much you work? Is it those 40 hours per week, 60 hours per week, or whatever your percentages there? Or is it the outcomes? And I think this is really what we've seen and learned so much first after the pandemic. I saw a big acceleration in these conversations about what really is work. We shifted away from the physical space and we're like, okay, we can work anywhere. But what is it? Well, it's the outcomes. And here we will now need to rethink and look at it very differently also when we apply AI. Because as you said, we over-tech everything. And AI, we had AI way before ChatGPT became a thing.
Oh, yeah.
For someone in tech, it's like, yeah, AI, it's super cool. We can do a lot with it. But really what happened there is about 3 years ago, a little bit more than that now, when ChatGPT came, it became a human transformation. We could now apply AI not just to deep processes and look about how we innovate differently and build it in and take big projects. Small things. We have an AI chat. We are all empowered. Human transformation. And then coming back a little bit to the question, how this impacts our work and where we're going with our crystal ball, it is taking a step back. What do you work with? With innovation, how will that adapt when we can take away the drudgery of digital transformation and just say, hey, update that, pull that for me, put this together. And that's what we can do with AI.
Just a reflection on what you're saying is because that's I really like that perspective when you say that, it's not about the definition of work, but it's more of the outcome. Because if you look at having a job is different today than 40 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, and our parents and the generation today and their parents or grandparents, where, you went to school, you got a job, and then you worked there until you got the golden watch, and then you retired, kind of thing. That's the 20th century idea of work, the industrialized work thing. Whereas the last 10 years, I mean, work is, you talk about side hustles, you talk about people who are influencers, you talk about, freelancers, the digital nomads. I mean, work is a different thing as if you look at going to an office or going to a big industry or whatever it is today than it was 20 years ago, 30, 40 years ago. So I like the perspective of, it's not about the actual, place or how we define work, but it's more about the outcome. And that, of course, changes a lot with generative AI and the tools that we have.
And impact and outcome, when you look at that, you mentioned influencers, for instance. I think it's great to bring that as an example, because if you can do your job, if you can get enough impact, reach enough people, and you do that for 4 hours per week, good for you. It doesn't have to be the traditional boundaries of what work is. It's what you can do, and then you can spend more time on things that really you're passionate about, that really hit the bottom line and not get stuck. And I think there's also a lot here on the 4-day working week. If you've heard of that one, there's been a lot at least in Swedish media very recently, but this is something that has been looked at for many years now. And I've actually not seen any study that shows that it's not successful when you reduce the amount of time. Because when you reduce the amount of time people work, you can focus, you can prioritize the right things. Also, people feel better, they work better, and then the outcomes become better. So you can reduce stress, you can burn out, so many of the negative things you reduce. And I think that's for sure something that we can really accelerate and look more towards now, how we're reshaping the rules of what we want work to be.
But I think that comes back to the human aspect as well, because we don't even have to talk about AI, because I can just take an example from myself and my own work life. When I started out as, early entrepreneur, and, and I completely, this was my late 20s, early 30s, and I completely went all in, and I fell into this startup-y entrepreneurship trap. And I was, it was like a cool thing. I worked 24 hours a day, slept at the office, the whole thing. And that sort of, what happened was I'd moved to different cities, so I could work 24 hours a day, and it was kind of a thing. And then
and why was it a thing?
What?
Why was it a thing?
Well, it was, but it was like the startup culture. It wasn't about the amount of work.
So it wasn't you saying you wanted to work that much. It was just felt normal.
Yeah, but it was the whole imagery of that very misaligned startup culture thing. So then, but then I got a family, and so then it was like, said, okay, well, I need to adapt to the whole going to work and then coming home and then having dinner and doing the family setting and then having evenings with somebody else. And then the realization hit me that I'm not doing less. I'm not producing less because I'm working half time. I'm just being more focused and better at doing stuff when I'm actually working.
Yeah. Because
because the thing is, if you have an abundance of time to do your work, you'll do your work, and you do your work in the time you have. So if you have 12 hours to do it, you'll spend 12 hours doing it. If you have 8 hours to do it, you'll spend 8 hours doing it. Kind of. And especially with the tools we have today, when we actually can become more efficient in that sense. I think it's really interesting. The whole 4-day work week, I think, is a super interesting prospect of how we see, what work is.
And there was a saying, I don't even remember who said it. It's such an old quote, but I only hire lazy people because they will get to the outcomes and the results faster than anyone else.
Yeah.
And I don't remember who said it first, but it's a really good one. And then people are like, "Oh, don't be lazy. That's a terrible thing to say." But no, it is about the outcomes. So I really think that's the essence of it. And I see
look at this, Hannah. Hey, Hannah, good to see you.
And also Camilla.
And Camilla as well. Hey, Camilla, awesome, great. And I ask questions as well. Comments. Do you agree with us or don't you agree with us? Let us know. I mean, it's we have you online here. Great.
I would love to understand as well, you who are listening here, how far along are you with your AI journeys? Because I think that's something also to talk about when we talk about the future of work. So many people are still in the early stages of getting a personal assistant. And that, I would say, is the first step of getting comfortable outside of the deep tech, the machine learning, the traditional AI, which is so cool. We talked about it for many years. But now when we're the new era of generative AI now, the first step was getting used to personal assistants, your chat. It can be ChatGPT, Copilot, or whichever service. And sometimes we're like, oh, everyone's there. Everyone is not there. No. In my world, we talk so much about the agentic, how we get digital coworkers. And that also actually comes in steps that we could talk a little bit about. But I would love to hear where people who are listening also are. Are you using personal assistants? Have you gotten started with agents? Anything else?
Yes. I mean, I'm looking at Camilla here. It says team interim and team recruitment. I mean, also the recruiting part. When it comes to, are you recruiting agents as well as people as well?
This is a very interesting one. I think actually it was together with Harvard Business Review, where it was stated and reflected a little bit about the future, where we're going now when we're bringing agents as digital coworkers, because human labor still super important. And our role will develop a lot when it comes to becoming more agent bosses. We will direct, we will manage, we will think about innovation and workflows, where the agents will take more and more processes. And then the scope there that was put together with Harvard Business Review was actually that we will need a new form of department within organizations. It's not going to be IT. It's not going to be HR. It's going to be a blend of those, because digital coworkers, you need to onboard them, but they are based in the digital world, the spectrum. And yes, we shouldn't. I actually got called out recently on this one. We shouldn't talk about AI as people, because it is not people. No. But I think it often helps to understand how to collaborate and work together with tech support and what generative AI can be. I often talk about digital coworkers.
Yeah, but I think that's don't forget where you heard it. We've just talked about a whole new, what's it called, skrå, a whole new sort of discipline at workplace, where we need the people handling this. But if you, the thing is, I usually just take a step back and zoom out, and also, talk about because you used to talk about going digital and automation. And then we looked at our processes and we said, what can we automate to make, what is repetitive and what can we automate? And we just add like a digital component there. And then we can focus on doing, the things that we're doing.
Yeah.
And this is kind of, in a very general sense, this is kind of the same thing, but on steroids, of course, because we can automate so much more and we can digitalize so much more, but it still is trying to figure out what is best done by machines and what is best done by humans. And I think that's also in a general sense, a quite sort of mentally good way of looking at it. So you're not just only. So, like I said, I before we started the camera, I met a representative for a creative industry, and they're only worried. They're not sort of, oh, we can do this, but they're sort of only worried, what are we going to do in the future as a creative industry? What's left for us to do when everybody can create? And yes, it's a fully relevant question. I understand that people are really thinking about, if especially if they are like in anything that generates like music or imagery or anything like that. Of course, that will change. It is changing, but the human element will always be there.
And I think this is where it's also so important to lean in, to work with generative AI, to learn, because then you're also actually building the development of your profession. Let's look at translators, for instance. Translators are a profession that we're very worried, or are still very worried about generative AI. Generative AI comes in and can translate so well. And those who have been leaning in, working with and saying, okay, I'll collaborate, I'll put my human touch and sprinkle on top and still use that magic, perfect. They can today deliver better outcomes in the short term. But then they are also very well poised and positioned to look about how should this this profession actually develop in the future.
Exactly.
And I think there you need to lean into what is really a translator about. It is about connecting two people or more that are coming from different perspectives. And it's not just language, it is culture, and it's many different things. And what will that be when you don't have to translate text and words or things like that? How can you connect people further? And when you start thinking about that one, when you are comfortable collaborating with digital tools such as generative AI, then it becomes way more natural to also find a way. Because some professions will go away. Some will just skyrocket and become something very different, and we will see so many new things. And this is not techie, this is not hard, this is change management. If anything, that's the bottom of what it is.
It is. And okay, so I won't just categorically say, oh well, technology has led to job displacements for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's just like one industry, but in a sense, even though it goes faster now, and it's changing a lot faster now, in a sense it is. I mean, in the creative industry, and this is a stupid example, I know, but back in the 1700-talet, that's the 18th century in English, the people who actually wrote, what's it called, Notblad, the music, wrote music by hand, they were outraged when the printing press started printing the pages of music, because then everybody could get pages of music. And it was like, sort of, but what about my job? I handwrite music. Everybody, what's the point of giving everybody access to music? Where's my job going to go? Kind of thing. So, and I'm not going to say it is exactly the same, but it is a similar thing. I mean, you're saying, so lean into it and understand how your profession is changing,
and then be part of reaping the benefits of that change.
Let's see here. Jerke, a big proportion of the knowledge workers are conditioned into the industry-based, time-based, and it's just demands that come with the new tech. A lot of worrying for fear reactions. The learning growth mindset demands both. I mean, that's what we're talking about when it comes to the whole human perspective and change management, more than just tech implementation. So how do we prepare ourselves and our workforce, and how do we try stuff and lean into things? I mean, the same thing here. I mean, we're going through that here as well at KTH Innovation, where we previously and still today, we're very hands-on with our teams, and it's coaching, and it's like, okay, well, let's try and do some market research. But today I can say to teams, hi everyone, okay, welcome, great idea. Spend a couple of hours, do some deep research with your AI prompt of choice, and then come back with that full market analysis, and we can look at that and see, does this feel relevant? What does this mean for your project and your idea? And how should we approach the market then, based on what we've learned here? And that information is something that would take weeks previously to get out. So
you're actively actually encouraging the students then to
definitely, because I mean, that bulk information gathering is something that we spent a lot of time on before, that we now can actually get much faster. And we can sort of reach a point faster when we can be focused on adding, how do we create the value then for whom? That process, we can shorten that process a lot.
And I think it's so important, because we hear over and over and over, oh, I don't have the time to learn this new tool, and oh, it's so much to keep up with. I understand. And that is the reality. We need to, that's one of the new skills. And also when we save time working with generative AI, for instance, let's actually put that back into looking at how can we learn something new. It's like baby steps. I remember, like, way back when, maybe 10-ish years ago or something, when we started talking much more about cloud technology. And for instance, in the office world, for those who use the Office, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Teams, and we talked about that cloud transformation where it was like, no, the Office, we update that every 3 years or something like that. And the whole organization, it just stops because it's such a big difference. Everything moved, etc. But then we made a reference to, for instance, Spotify or Netflix or at home where you had your cloud services, and those small changes, how it just felt natural that, yeah, this button might move or that feature might just pop up. It's going to be smaller and easier. And that's when it comes to working with these new tools, no matter if it starts with the chat conversation and then just getting used to that and collaborating with a general AI chat. When you start doing that, it becomes much easier to wrap your head around, oh, I could ask about that one. Your prompts will just naturally become better all the time. And then when we take the next step and work more with agents, it just feels natural. But if you just throw someone that has not done anything at all into agentic AI and digital coworkers, it just becomes overwhelming.
Of course.
So really taking the time to sit down, especially if you're a leader or a manager, to say, let's focus on time together to sit down. And that's also leader manager for students. Of course, it would be the same thing. So I love that you're taking that approach here and say, we need to invest. We need to look, what does this mean for us?
Yeah.
Because it's not about just using it. It's about finding the value for you. And when you do that, that's when you can start first becoming more productive and saving a lot of time that you can invest back in yourself. But that's where you take the next step and seeing, how do we change processes? Which is the core of what we're going to be doing now when we rethink what is the future of work? What will we be spending time on? Well, it will all come back to that baseline.
But I think that is, and thank you for saying that, because I think this is, personally, I think this is the one of the most important things for our leaders, us as leaders, or you as leaders or managers, is how do you work with / encourage / teach and learn with your fellow workers? Because I wrote a thing on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago where previously, and I want your comments on this as well. Previously, we saw what we called the digital divide, which was mostly between young and old. You know, the younger generations, they were getting on digital. The older generations, they were not. So, you know, not being able to use bank ID in Sweden and all of those kind of things. And then I wrote a short article about a short musing about the new digital divide that wasn't the old and young, but it was more of a like that instead of like that, where I said it divide between people who are using AI to become smarter and opposed to the people who are using AI to become lazier.
Okay. But back to the point of being lazy.
I know. So, but, you know, so just as what would you, I mean, a comment from you then on as a manager, how do you then encourage your coworkers to actually, you know, not just turn their brains off and, you know, give in an AI generated thing?
It's so important to talk about what it is. Back to the question, what is work? What are we trying to do? What is the mission of this team that you manage also? How can you break it down and meet also your coworkers? And managers are often caught in the middle of organizational structure and demands. Oh, get them back to the office. Oh, teach them AI. Get them on board with this change that we have in business strategy or whatever. Maybe they don't always feel they get the tools or the trainings to have those conversations, but it is so important. The managers being there, being clear about why are we doing this? How does it connect to what our team actually is here for? And it is okay to be lazy. It is okay if we hit that bottom line, but to be lazy to not do the work, no, but be lazy in terms of working smarter. But it really comes back in finding what's in it for you. And I love, my first love and still love today when it came to generative AI was what it could do for me with meetings. I go from meetings to meetings to meetings to meetings and just applying meeting coaches, all the meeting notes, how I can pull and condense all my meetings into a podcast so I can be on top of everything. Like that really revolutionized everything for me. But when I went out and talked to my team members, and were like, "Oh, hey, meetings," they're like, "I don't have quite as many meetings as you, Nina. So it's great, but it doesn't change my world the same way." And that's where you, as a manager or a leader, or just a fellow person to family members or friends, need to see how can you meet them. And the more people we invite to this, the bigger impact.
But there is also something to be said about the feeling of losing control, because if I encourage people to take more initiative, and it's like when I talk to companies, when I talk about innovation and innovation processes at companies, and I say, that you have to be prepared that if you actually encourage your employees to become more creative, they might become more creative, and that will lead to a lot more ideas that you will need to handle, or at least talk about. And if you're not prepared to do that, then you need to be careful what you wish for, kind of thing. So, and I think sometimes it's about, people want to keep control. They want to own the discussion, and they want to own the process, instead of saying, hey, as you said, this is what we're trying to achieve. Be independent and discover how we can achieve that. But I think that some people are still afraid of letting go of that control. I know you've been working in a large organization. Do you see anything similar there when it comes to?
Of course. And then also, I think we should remember, when it comes to change management, 20% of people are going to be like, yay, something new. I love it. Just give it to me. And then we have the 60% who's like, okay, prove it to me, convince me, and I will come along and follow you on the journey. And then we have the 20% who's just been like, no, I really don't want to change. All organizations, even large ones and tech ones, and people think that the people at Microsoft are like superhumans who are all, let's go. But it's real people, I promise. And it is
people
there,
are people.
But that's where you really need to lean in. You need to invest, you need to educate, skill people, and just continue to talk about the why, over communicate. And as a leader, you think you're saying it so clearly because you discussed it in so many different meetings. Of course, we have to do this, of course. But then in reality, employees, they don't see the same thing. It's almost never enough communication when it comes to big change.
Yeah, that will be the next topic. Well, me and Nina talks about leadership at the workplace. Because that's another half an hour. I'm just looking at the time here. We have a couple of minutes to go. But I mean, that is a classic thing. Leaders talk to other leaders. They decide stuff on the leadership level, and they've spent maybe 2 months talking about it. And then they go out and they address the rest of the company, and they hear it for the first time. And the leaders are surprised that people just don't get it right away. And I always talk about that, the world's longest 2 feet is like from here to here. I can understand and hear it and rationally hear what you're saying, but emotionally to understand and grasp and accept, that's a whole different thing.
It is.
So, but that's for our next talk.
But that's where it really comes back and ties as well, because all the different projects we've done, if it was an office transformation, if it was post-COVID, technology advances, all the different things, what we've learned is it comes back to people. We're still going to have a role for everyone who's like, AI is going to take all our jobs. No, they're going to change. And really what we lean into is human ingenuity. Are really the knowledge, what we know about our business, what we do really well. We remove all the drudgery, but really come back to, we need to help each other. This is a change. And it all comes back to change management, communication, very, very basic in human skills.
I think it was Nina Rapp who said that the biggest change agent for digitalization wasn't the head of IT, it was COVID. But when we kind of just were forced to do it. One last long comment here. Look at this from Andrea. Leaders need to realize AI is the next electricity. Of course, the first version will prove errors. Cybersecurity governance. It's a big leap, and we need to understand and accept it for what it is. And you have more impact. Yes. Thank you, Andrea, as well, for the comment. And it's kind of what we've been talking about here as well. I will tell you what, the time is up now.
No, the time. What happened?
I know, it's the world's fastest half an hour. The comments are still live. We'll be answering questions on LinkedIn. So if you want to keep on posting questions, keep the discussion going. It's on my feed on LinkedIn. We'll keep the discussions going there. And just feel free to add more comments. And sure. And with that, though, it is now 9:59. I will say, Nina, thank you so much for coming. Thank you, everyone, for coming online. It's Innovation Fika, a 30-minute coffee break every Wednesday morning at 9:30 a.m. And you can reach Nina on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah.
And a free agent, agentic.
Agentic AI. Yeah.
Agentic Nina.
Agentic Nina.
Really nice seeing you all, and really nice seeing you again, Nina. Thank you for gracing me with your presence here today.
Thank
Wonderful.
you, Donnie. Thank you, everyone.
Okay,
and
everyone.
Have a great Wednesday.
Take care. Have a great day. Have a great 2 days in Tech Arena as well for everybody going there. And that, my dear.